Donald Trump's first 3 weeks of the Pelosi era have been rocky, waffling on this shutdown compromise, losing a State of the Union and its typical audience of about 43 million people.
I could have gone to a big auditorium and gotten 25,000 people in one day, and you've been there many times. But I think that would be very disrespectful to the State of the Union. So what she said, I thought, was actually reasonable. We'll have the State of the Union when the shutdown is over.
You hear that? Donald Trump deferentially calling Pelosi's decision reasonable. He also referred to it as her prerogative. In a moment, we're going to get into it with Art of the Deal co-author and friend of the beat, Tony Schwartz. He says today that he has never seen Trump so utterly flummoxed and outgunned as he is by Nancy Pelosi. He seems both awed and cowed by her. Schwartz argues it's because Trump has underestimated her ability as a leader and that Trump would be violating one of his own claimed pieces of negotiating advice: understand your opponent.
Negotiation is a very, very delicate art. Sometimes you have to be tough. Sometimes you have to be as sweet as pie. You never know. It depends on who you're dealing with. The big thing in negotiation is to try and figure out your opponent. Otherwise, you're going to look like an idiot and lose big.
Truer words?
Truer words. He looks like an idiot.
What is it about her and her strategy 3 weeks in that has reminded anyone who ever said, gosh, should she still be speaker? She seems to have a real way to deal with him.
Yeah, I mean, she's suddenly gone from being this most hated person in her previous incarnation as speaker to being this celebrity and charismatic leader. I don't think she shifted. I don't think she actually even necessarily has a particular strategy with Trump. I think she's being herself, which is she's tough. She's tough with civility. She's tough with decorum. She's a way that I think Trump looks at and goes, I literally can't do anything to move this person.
Well, as they say in Office Space, do you remember that movie?
I do.
I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you there. I think Speaker Pelosi would never try to cancel George W. Bush's State of the Union, because no matter how diametrically opposed they were on foreign policy, on civil rights, on the environment, there was still a feeling that you were working within some framework of Washington. And so for all those diametric, I mean 0 to 100 on Iraq, there would still be that respect. And she is saying something that is quite popular with her base in the resistance, but that I think we're seeing more and more across other parts of America, which is, well, if this guy comes in and breaks everything, don't you have to change up your response to him?
Yeah, I think that what's consistent with who she's always been is that she is strategic and careful and deliberate and still respectful. She continues to actually, the act itself, you might say, is disrespectful, but the way in which she has done it, I think, is consistent with what you would expect from her.
I mean, what I think you're getting at is that she's saying, if you are going to degrade the entire government, you don't get to do this thing, right? But when you step back up to being responsible, you can still have your State of the Union.
I'm using the rules and I'm using the rules and my leverage to accomplish the outcome I want. I'm not going to scream at you. I'm not going to trade words with you. I'm not going to back down from you. Look, this is what leadership is about. It's about being able to balance these opposites of sort of confidence and humility, of courage, but also prudence.
So why did he violate one of the rules that you ghost wrote or helped wrote? Did he used to follow those rules more?
Oh, I was talking about her there.
No, I know you were talking about her there, but going back to him saying, understand your opponent, he doesn't seem to know what to do with her yet.
No, I think that in the face of, look, number one, with a bullet, Trump is a bully. So he spent his entire life bullying, and it has usually worked. It is clear to him that he can't bully her. And it's also, she's a much older person with enormous experience. it's tough to do it in a way that doesn't backfire on you. So I think he's got her. I mean, I'm sorry, she's got him. But really, the issue here is, underneath this is, are you someone who is outer directed or are you inner directed? So outer directed means you are looking outside yourself for what the response is going to be, and you're making all your choices expediently based on that feedback you're getting from the outside world. Inner directed means you have a true north inside. You have actually a set of values that are immutable, that you stand by. And I do think that Pelosi has a consistent record of suggesting that she does stand for something. And she knows that when she wants to make a choice, she can look inside, she can sense what she feels and act on it. Trump has no idea. He's like a tree blowing in the wind with no roots. So the wind comes this way and Trump goes this way. The wind comes this way and he goes this way. He knows he's up against one tall tree with a lot of roots. She may be short in height, but she is tall in stature.
I feel like we got into almost a Dr. Seuss place near the end, and I
really?
I liked it.
I'm
not well read enough on the Lorax to say more than that. But luckily, this show's on. For now, it's on every night. So maybe tomorrow night I'll get back.
I'm a Horton Hears a Who kind of a fan.
I don't get it.
That's Dr. Seuss too.
Is it?
Yes. You will be a parent and know that at some point.
What about The Giving Tree? How do you feel about that one?
That's a good book. I'm a Shel Silverstein fan. Are you going to try and trade with me about who knows children's books?
Sir, one thing I won't do is strain too far for references to befuddle a guest. That's something I would never do.
No, that is your limit.
My producer's saying we got to go, and I think he means it more than one way. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.